I'm probably excited about the ability to solve some of the world's most complex challenges. And when I say the world's most complex challenges, if we think about water scarcity, if we think about population growth, each of those challenges presents unique engineering, environmental, social, and adaptation challenges. So what if we could solve those challenges and not result in degradation to the planet, not result in communities needing to go through devastating effects of floods and fires and those sorts of things. And that's the really exciting thing. But I think the only way that we'll be able to do that is if we start to understand the connections and the interconnectedness between the natural environment, the built environment, how technology can help inform some of the decisions that we might be able to make, and run different scenarios on some of those decisions.
Welcome to the Trailblazers podcast, presented by BST Global, where we feature the visionaries who are shaping the future of the AEC industry. My name is Eileen Canady, Chief Marketing Officer at BST Global, and your host on today's podcast. Joining me today, we have Paul Murphy, Chief Information Officer at GHD. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Let's start off with your personal journey. So your career began as an Army officer, and since then you moved from civil engineering, project leadership, to now driving technology and transformation as CIO. Can you share your story and really what led you to this point?
As an Army engineer, as an Army officer, I had a particular fascination going through university with technology. Studied my undergraduate degree in civil engineering, and then for some reason got involved in doing some work with genetic algorithms to do project management optimization, traveling salesman problems and things of that nature. So, 30 years on, I'm at that really interesting point where those things that were being done on 386 computers and 486 PCs that took somewhere between 2 days and 5 days to come to fruition are suddenly being able to be done in seconds. But more broadly, the journey for me was fascination with engineering, a fascination with technology, and I've had this really unique opportunity to be able to bring both of those concepts together.
Can you also tell the audience a little bit about GHD and what the company does and the kind of impact it strives to make, and the projects such as the one on the screen here behind us?
Thanks, Eileen. So for us, we're an international multidisciplinary engineering firm. We were originally founded in Australia in 1928, and now we operate in 12 countries globally. A very strong presence here where we are at the moment in the Americas, as well as across Asia Pacific and into Europe and the Middle East. And I say multidisciplinary because we do have in excess of about 50 different disciplines, all the way through all of the standard engineering disciplines, through environmental sciences, architecture, into planning and other creative disciplines as well. So our passion is really about how we deliver lasting community benefit to the communities and the people in which we live and work. And that's really what we've stood for a long time.
Speaking of the communities, GHD's mission focuses on creating lasting community benefits for imaginative thinking. So how does your technology strategy align with that mission, especially as you drive AI and digital transformation initiatives?
So we're looking at ultimately how we create value faster for our clients. Ultimately, the work that we do in consulting disciplines is about how we create certainty for clients where there is uncertainty. So a good example of that would be, historically, if we look at engineering projects, there has been an inability to create greater productivity in project delivery for the last 20 or 30 years. And so everyone is often talking about how engineering and project delivery can be more beneficial to communities, and that's ultimately what we're trying to do with technology: create certainty faster, remove uncertainty, remove waste in project delivery, and those sorts of things.
So you've led major initiatives like GHD's cloud migration to Microsoft Azure and advancements in digital engineering. Could you share how these initiatives are changing how GHD delivers projects and really serves its clients?
Fantastic. So let me start with the cloud, the cloud transition as a start point. We're a great believer that ultimately the capacity to compute more, to use data more, is essential to a technology-driven future for a company like us. So we made the transition about 5 years ago to navigate the move from on-premise data centers, which are ultimately capitally constrained and they're physically constrained, to use a more elastic capability like cloud computing services. And as a result of doing that, we spend more time now thinking about the problems that we're trying to solve with that compute capability and with the data and assets that we have, rather than trying to do the data center engineering work. So that's probably a good first step. The second, and I'll probably switch maybe to talk a little bit about generative AI and the place that we're going with generative AI. We were one of the first adopters of Microsoft Copilot services in Australasia and in our industry. And one of the reasons that we did that was that we felt that ultimately this is a skill and a capability that all of our people, irrespective of their foundational discipline, need to be capable of leveraging into their future. So how do we create greater awareness, digital literacy, AI literacy in all of the people that work for us, so that we can then propel them into the next generation of work?
And is there a specific way you upskill and reskill these employees? Because Copilot might be natural for someone maybe right out of college, but it's new for many employees. What is your strategy behind upskilling?
I think it's probably as simple as saying it's practice. And one of the things that we found was that it was typically taking an average employee somewhere between 10 and 12 weeks to be more comfortable and more capable in their prompting. And as a result, we did notice early on in the program that we were running that we would lose a number of people in the first 4 to 6 weeks. You know, they would go through a little bit of a honeymoon period. They would be very excited that they've been given a generative AI tool like Copilot, and at the end of 5 or 6 weeks, they would start to decline in their use. And we worked with a number of these people and sought to understand what was happening in that period. And it literally was a honeymoon period. So we worked with them to produce some things like day in the life experience charts to help them see what other people were doing to help them get through that 6 to 8 week transition period. And as a result, we've had a very high success rate with over 90% of the people that have been using our Copilot instances continuing to use and develop their skills and their capabilities. And they're now forming a very nice ecosystem where they're actively sharing with each other the things that they're learning, the prompts that they're learning, the capabilities that they're developing as people.
And I think that's key is in the sharing of best practices. I know I myself learn new prompting techniques pretty much very regularly. And anytime I learn something new, I was like, oh my gosh, that just saved so much time. Yeah. As you rolled this out, were there any departments that maybe found it quicker and easier to use?
It's a great question. We modelled out all of the different departments, all of the different types of workers in our workforce and their uses. We probably haven't found any single department that was more capable or any department that was less capable. I think what we found is there is a greater capacity for perhaps people that have a greater level of creativity,
Right.
to use some of these services a bit more. We do find that some of the employees that have a very fixed and rigid mindset, and are looking for absolutes and certainty, they struggle a little bit more than some of the people that are a little bit more free range and willing to go further with their prompting.
And so as AI and digital platforms expand, ethical concerns and bias, transparency, responsible deployment really become critical. And so how do you balance this drive for innovation with really keeping ethical standards?
So we would start by looking at having a responsible usage strategies in place, and we certainly do have a responsible usage framework in place and a standard in place. The second thing that we do is we also look at enterprise grade services. And we know that there is a myriad of AI technologies that are in the marketplace, in the consumer marketplace. They don't all have the same levels of protection. They don't have the same content filtering, the same assurances around non-transmission of information to different places. So we're very strict on the application of that. I think the final piece, though, goes to what's the work of a human in relation to the use of AI, and particularly generative AI. And we have a very strong stance that says the human, at this point in time, with the way that AI currently works, the human is in control over all outputs, and will make the decision about how the outputs are used. And that's absolutely paramount, and it's no different to anything that we've done historically. We've always had a strong stance that engineering work product, environmental work product, all of our work product is reviewed by human beings, and human beings have that capacity to interrogate, challenge, reason, and interpret the findings sufficiently at this point in time. Fast forward a few years, we may have a different situation, but at this point in time, humans are definitely in the loop, and that is very, very much held as a requirement in GHD.
You've also emphasized collaboration with technology providers such as Bentley, Microsoft, and Esri. How does engaging with the broader tech ecosystem influence GHD's innovation strategy?
Yeah, so we look at it and have a very strong belief that we cannot do this by ourselves. We're not we're a consumer of technology. We work with technology, but we don't have the capacity. We're not a tech company per se, and so that's where we would look at. We need to rely on others to help us achieve our objectives. We do have a belief that a good proportion of our energy and effort will be spent on consuming technology provided by others. We have a belief that we also will need to configure some services ourselves so that it can work with the data sets that only we have access to. And there will be a small proportion of scenarios where we have to build our own solutions. And we do have good engineering teams and good data science and AI teams that can build those specialty products and solutions that help us achieve what we need with our clients. It becomes a 60-30-10 strategy, or a 70-20-10 strategy, rather than being dominated by just the tech players.
It's interesting because we talk about build, buy, partner all the time, and it's probably, as CIO of an organization, it's probably something that comes across your desk quite frequently, doesn't it?
Literally every day of the
Yes.
week, someone is thinking about: do we buy something? Can we build something?
Yes.
And that's a conversation that's always ongoing. The challenge with that conversation, though, is that the world is moving so fast. The technology is moving so fast. You've got to be very confident that you have the capacity to build and create value faster than a tech company is.
Right.
So that's a very, very pivotal decision for a company like ours.
As we look to the next 5 to 10 years even, which is basically eons when you're in the AI world, what are you most excited about?
I'm probably excited about the ability to solve some of the world's most complex challenges. And when I say the world's most complex challenges, if we think about water scarcity, if we think about population growth, each of those challenges presents unique engineering, environmental, social, and adaptation challenges. So what if we could solve those challenges and not result in degradation to the planet, not result in communities needing to go through devastating effects of floods and fires and those sorts of things. And that's the really exciting thing. But I think the only way that we'll be able to do that is if we start to understand the connections and the interconnectedness between the natural environment, the built environment, how technology can help inform some of the decisions that we might be able to make, and run different scenarios on some of those decisions. So I think that's the exciting bit. I'm pretty passionate about that.
Which is great. And oftentimes people don't think, just think AEC, building bridges, and it's amazing when you put the technology, AI innovation, and you pair it with what we can do with an AEC industry. I too am very excited about the potential.
Well, I think just picking up on your point there, what does a bridge do? What is a bridge there for? A bridge is there to help people with trade, to help people traverse and save time and money in traversing a difficult river or difficult ecosystem. So if we look at the core purpose of infrastructure, what is it there for? What does it do? How does it benefit people, communities, society? That's the exciting thing. If we just look at it as collections of concrete and steel and a navigable path, right, we don't quite get that same connection to its real purpose.
So now, coming back to you, Paul, if you look back over your career.
Don't say it like that, because it sounds like you're making me ready for an exit from my career.
Your very short career that you've had.
Thank you.
What might be the best piece of advice, or one great piece of advice that someone has given you?
Probably the most interesting advice that anyone has ever given me is the work of leadership is a bit like being a stand-up comic.
Interesting.
And there's a bit of a story that sits behind that.
Okay.
And stand-up comics often have to, well, they not just often have to, every day they have to use all of the resources that they've got available to them. Typically, the resources that they've got are only themselves and what's in the room with them, and that might be the audience, it could be the heckler. The second thing is that they have to have confidence in their own ability and trust themselves. And the third thing that they need to do is to actually let themselves go at different points and be brave enough and confident enough just to be in the moment. And so I think there's definitely an element of use all the resources that you've got available to you as a leader, whether it's leading an organisation or leading a project. The second is obviously how do you be in the moment and live for what you're doing, the project that you're in or the work that you're doing. And the third one is just have fun, be there, be present.
If you were to give advice then to maybe someone just starting out in their career, knowing what you know, what would be that advice for them?
I would suggest have confidence in themselves. Take the opportunities when they're presented to you. Don't be concerned if you don't know where that will take you. In my career, it's taken me into multiple different countries and multiple different lines of work. So definitely have that confidence to trust others to look after you, but also have the courage to make your own choices as well. Mm-hmm. Don't second guess those choices in the same way that you were just saying, Eileen. Definitely have a go and be happy.
So trust your gut. Don't second guess yourself, and enjoy the ride. That's what I'm hearing.
Enjoy the ride.
Yeah,
You don't know where it's going to take you, so don't stress too much about 2 years' time, 3 years' time, or 5 years' time. That'll happen at an appropriate time.
Trust your gut. So great advice that you have. So, Paul, it has been such a pleasure to have you on the podcast today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you to our audience for joining us today on the Trailblazers podcast. Until next time, take care.